So, Thanksgiving is happening. Today, actually. And if your family is anything like mine, you need some help figuring out how to get through this, especially this year. So I'm going to share some of the tips and tricks I've learned throughout the years, and if you have any to share with me, please do so, because I'm just... And this is Gatorade, by the way. I don't and cannot drink, but if you are of age, there is no shame in partaking to both enjoy your time with your family and make things a little bit less stressful. One of the more general tips I've learned is to wear comfortable clothes. Eating is a huge part of how we celebrate Thanksgiving here, and even if you're not going to enjoy your family the most, enjoy the food. And that goes double for trans people. Wear whatever is going to make you the least dysphoric without potentially outing yourself or causing drama with your family. Speaking of family, try and find an ally if you can, whether that's a sibling, or a cool cousin, or one of your more progressive aunts or uncles, someone who's on your side for the most part. The only way I get through meals with my extended family is to have someone I can give a look to when one of our bigoted relatives makes a comment about whatever perceived inconvenience they have. For example, last year they talked about how weird trans people are and how they didn't have them back in my grandma's day. She's a pretty young grandma. They made generally racist comments about black people, Mexican people, Indian people, and also complained about Native people because I have uncles who live in North Dakota near reservations. Of course, this year is probably going to be even worse because now they can talk about Trump and everything that he's brought up. So, also very important is to have friends that you can call or text after you're done with a meal to basically just vent about all of those bigoted comments that your relatives made. I don't know about you, but when I'm having a meal with my extended family, I just sit there and try and focus on the food and not make any comments about anything, even remotely controversial. But having to listen to all of the ignorance just builds up inside of me, and I have to let it out somewhere, so that's where my friends come in. I just tell them everything, tell them all of the ignorance, and we commiserate, and it's fine. Obviously, your friends might also be celebrating Thanksgiving, so you can do a similar thing by going to Tumblr or Twitter or wherever you like to go on social media and finding like-minded people so that you can just chill for a bit. Something I've actually never tried before is setting boundaries for what we're allowed to talk about. While I am an adult, I don't feel like my family would listen if I tried to set boundaries, because just trying to would probably imply that I don't agree with them on some level, and that's more likely to start a discussion than prevent one. But if you can, that sounds like a fantastic idea. On the other hand, be prepared for whatever discussions may come up. Because while most of us have adapted to whatever our family situations are, we've learned to deal with it, do a lot of self-care, there are always those direct questions that you just can't seem to avoid, like, why doesn't such a pretty girl have a boyfriend yet? Or, who did you vote for? Or, why do you wear your hair like that now? Because for some reason, relatives always seem to have opinions about how their younger relatives wear their dead skin cells on top of their heads. I haven't figured out how to avoid these questions completely, but I can say, focus on your food, because that's the point of a meal. It's impolite to speak with your mouth full. And also, that gives you time to figure out the most diplomatic response to whatever invasive or ignorant question your relative asked. That said, I've mostly been speaking from my perspective here, so if your family is likely to listen to you and you feel like you have the energy to spread some knowledge at the table, absolutely go for it. A group called Showing Up for Racial Justice made an excellent guide with responses to some of the most common comments you might hear about Trump, so I will link that in the description below. And also, I'm going to point out that you don't need to out yourself to educate. You don't have to out yourself about your sexuality, or your gender, or the fact that you didn't vote for Trump. You can absolutely just pretend like you're a really passionate ally, and no one will blame you for that. I mean, or you can come out and really shock your relatives. I'm mostly joking about that, please stay safe. Those are all the tips I have for during the meal. I guess the only other thing would be make sure you have time afterwards or, away from your relatives to practice self-care, because that is so important when you're dealing with stress like this, especially stress from family and stress from politics and everything. It's a good idea to already have a playlist of music or movies or Netflix shows that you can just de-stress to, spend a little time with yourself, with your own thoughts, and maybe focus a little bit on the intended point of the holiday, which is giving thanks. I'm not even gonna get into the horrible history behind it, or the reflections of today. Anyway, I hope that helps some of you. If you're celebrating Thanksgiving today, happy Thanksgiving, and if you need someone to vent to or talk to, feel free to add me on social media or leave a comment. I will reply because I'm right there with you. In any case, I'll see you next week. Look at that, it's frosty. Wear something that's comfortable to pack your stomach with. That sounded, or a cool cousin, or an aunt and uncle. And uncle, cool. That's me, I'm both an aunt and an uncle, because it's impolite to eat with your mouth full. And even if they do, you can pretend you're really sick, and then they can focus on how you're sick and laugh at that. You don't need to out yourself as anti-Trump. You don't. I can't believe that's a thing people would have to out themselves about. Okay. Anti-Trump? I can't.